Welcome to Positive Business Action, the podcast where we explore real strategies, real stories, and real solutions to help you grow a stronger, more profitable business. Each episode, we break down practical ideas that you can actually use, from marketing and guest experience to operations, team culture, and long-term growth. Whether you run a farm, manage an attraction, or just love the business side of making memories for guests, you're in the right place. Let's jump right in. Welcome back to Positive Business Action, the number one agritourism podcast with Hugh McPherson.
Today, my mother's favorite son.
Today, we have a wonderful guest, Dom Charvalotti. Would you like to introduce yourself, Dom?
Who is this guy?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Dom Charvalotti from emailmarketing.com, and I do the head email strategist over there and email marketing extraordinaire, working with some amazing people.
Correct.
Yes, but I think before we go into Dom's thing, we have something special for you, Dom. We knew you were coming. We have something special to make it seem even more like we are legit.
Yeah.
John?
This black void back here.
There's a black void. There's been a void between me and John. And all of our guests have noticed it. And now I think it's time. We've graduated, John.
Are we ready?
That's right. It's like when I got out of fourth grade and went to middle school. Here we go.
You got to help me.
Go, ready?
Ready? Three, two, one.
Oh, shoot. Woo! It's our faces. Oh my gosh. Positive Business Action. We now have a sign. That makes it legit. You're first, Dom. You're first on the legitness, my
We're
friend.
Finally
This was for you.
I
Mainly us,
appreciate that.
partly you. That's that is what we're doing.
There we go.
So that one's Ruben, just in case anyone needed to know. that one's Ruben. I got the good haircut in between, and then Johnny's got a haircut since you got this picture.
Yeah,
taken.
that's true. That's true.
It's crazy. But a man who needs no haircut, just a little beard trimming. Kick it off.
Absolutely.
Let's ask Dom something and see if he can make us a little smarter than we previously were. Now that he knows how legit
We are.
we are.
Alrighty. So just to start off, I am very curious because a few years ago, we went through what we like to call the email apocalypse. And a lot of people probably have no idea what that is, but it is very important to people like us. So could you just explain that a little bit?
And what are people doing wrong?
Yeah, that
right?
too.
Because obviously I'd done something wrong because I got spanked by Google. Weird.
Well, I mean, you guys are dubbing it the email apocalypse. A lot of people, good thing you guys figured it out sooner rather than later. A lot of people went out of business because of it. The email apocalypse, in a short explanation, is one day everyone's emails just stopped landing in the inbox. Some people knew it right away. They saw their revenue drop off. Other people today probably still don't even know that they were affected by it.
Yeah. Well, and I sent one on Tuesday and it had like a 27% open rate. And I sent one on Friday and it had a 2. I mean, I just got annihilated and was in a panic. So what are farms doing wrong, I guess, is the question that kind of led up to the apocalypse happening to at least me. Maybe nobody else had a problem, but I'm pretty sure everybody had a problem.
So you have to kind of look at email marketing and kind of like two functions, especially like if we're talking about the email apocalypse, like what actually was happening and is happening still for a lot of people. But a lot of it is really just like email marketing in terms of is like, what is it for you? Is it something that you just use to send receipts and just send people notifications? Or is it something that you're actually using as a tool to like build a relationship and get people to come out to the farm, buy stuff, come to different events? You guys have festivals, other people have different attractions and all that kind of stuff, same as you guys. But it really is just like, okay, so what are you doing with it? And some people, as we know, you go to send an email, it looks okay, decent open rate. The next one you said, you sent and it got a 2% open rate. What's going on? What happened? Well, essentially, it just kind of gets broken down to your email sending practices and the different ways that people are engaging with your stuff. If you have a big list or decent sized list and you're just mailing them, not cleaning anything, and we can go into that in a few moments. But if you're just emailing and no one's opening, or they're marking you as spam, or a lot of different things, eventually you get dinged and your domain reputation goes down.
Who's the dinger? Who's the dinger, Dom? Who's dinging me?
So the main thing is Gmail and Yahoo. Those are the biggest ones out there. Those are your at gmail.com addresses, email addresses, or at Yahoo. And then there's a bunch of other ones that fall in line at AOL, all that stuff. And they basically decided one day that certain people not following the rules, they were not allowed in their customers' inboxes.
Yes, as we found out. So when you say engagement, let's not make any assumptions that people know, right? We want to make sure everybody's on the same track because we're going to talk a lot about it. What do you very specifically mean when you say engagement?
So, for example, when you send an email, no matter what it is, and we're talking about marketing emails here, not a normal, hey, Hugh, Hugh's specific email address. We're talking to, you're writing something and it's going out to hundreds, thousands, or maybe millions. Engagement is an open, a click, a reply, a forward, anything that they're doing with the email. So it's like anything that can happen with the email. So opening it is a form of engagement, clicking it is a form of engagement, forwarding it is a form of engagement that is tracked, and then replying is also another form of engagement.
Gotcha. So how do we get more engagement, right? Because I guess I'm concerned that in the farm industry, what we used to do and what my mom did back when you had to cut out shapes of articles that she hand typed and use a wax paper and stick them in the shapes that you wanted to create a newsletter. And then get this, Dom, you would send it in the mail. That's like the box that you probably don't use that's out in front of your house. We would mail a newsletter. So emails, aren't they just like electronic newsletters?
In a lot of ways, yes, but no, in terms of depending on what your goals are with it. If you want to generate revenue with them, they don't have to be these super cluttered looking things. Not to say that a newsletter that you mail out is cluttered, but it's got a lot of it's got a different purpose. But getting more engagement can simply just having a goal with an email, right? If you're, good example here, you guys are, recording podcasts and you guys want people to watch them. Definitely don't want to start off an email not talking about the podcast at all and then mentioning it later on. Doesn't really have a good purpose. They're not opening to see the podcast. They're not going to click, not going to know that there's a click in there that they can go watch it. So that's kind of answering both the questions there.
And would you recommend to just get them to open it in the first place, having something in the subject line for, like, if the email's about the podcast, you say...
You shirtless.
Okay.
That probably got a really good open rate. Like one time. Then maybe...
maybe not.
Maybe not. Just and like in the female demographic.
Well, there's a lot of ways to get opens. I mean, Hugh shirtless, don't get me wrong, is going to get a lot of opens.
That's what I'm saying.
Was it the type of opens that you want? We don't know. But brass tacks is, it really just comes down to, does the subject line get the person opening the email, and is it going to get them to understand why they're opening the email? For example, a really good email subject line is quick question, small ask, something that's like short and simple, but they know what to expect to some degree when they open the email. Hugh shirtless subject line, don't get me wrong, we'll get a lot of opens because they're going to be like, what? But you might get the negative engagement that you're maybe not looking for. A lot of
delete, report, spam.
Yes. And that kind of falls into the original, kind of circling back a little bit to the original question of like the email apocalypse. Like, you have to be really careful what the intention of the email is. If you're just sending an email just to send something, that's usually where you can start to get hurt. Or if you're doing things like discounts every time. So, John, you asked, like, what can we put in a subject line to get good engagement? It's okay to put like 25% off, 15% off your, tickets or something like that to an event at your farm or something like that. But if you're doing it all the time, people are just kind of going to start to get sick to the thing and then unsubscribe, mark as spam. And that kind of all sort of, it's like treating them with care, but also understanding that there's a clear goal here, right? Like, you don't want people just on your email list. People on your email list not buying or doing anything is kind of not really worth it, right? It's not really worth even sending an email at that point. So you have to there's a fine line between selling and then also making sure that the email is always relevant at the time that you're sending it.
Yeah. So I guess what John is kind of talking about and what you're talking about, and I would submit, I have had plenty of weeks where I was like, I just need to get an email out. And I don't know that I even knew the why, other than I would love more people to come this weekend, which is completely nebulous, right? It doesn't, that's a very generic reason to do it. But it seems like we have to start thinking of these emails, every single one of them is like, understand the why, then get into that subject line that talks about that. And then it sounds like you're saying, try to clutter the email with as many ideas as possible and 17 links and 4 pictures. Was that the last part? How to build the correct email body at the emailmarketing.com way? Is that?
Well, no, that wouldn't be the way. That last part would be kind of straying a little bit into the wilderness where you could possibly get hurt.
So clean up that last part for me.
So cleaning up that last part. So like an email has to be 2 things, simple and effective. Simple and effective. It can be a long email where you write a lot. There's a lot to the message, or it could be very short. But if you're putting a link to the marketplace, you're putting a link to go buy a ticket, you're also putting a link to the winery, you're putting a link to a bunch of different pages on your website, and the email doesn't really have a singular focus, it starts to become something that nobody really knows what to click and nobody really knows why they're opening it. And just for a moment, that's another thing that can hurt you, because when I'm sure people are on email lists where they get those types of emails that they're just cluttered with stuff. Those are the types of emails that start to push you into the promotions folder, to spam, because that's what, let's just say what it is. That's what spammers do.
That's right. When Channing was on here last time, she was talking about you could only sell one thing to one person at one time.
Correct.
It sounds like that's the level of focus that you're talking about. But I have 50 things going on. How do we balance? We have a winery where you go pick stuff. You can get a bakery. You can come to the maze. You can get gemstone mining.
You can listen to the podcast.
You can listen to our fabulous podcast. You can buy 27 attractions. I mean, we have 27 things going on. How on earth are you saying to take a farm? You're starting to get familiar with what our farm's about. How do we take that complex attraction and get down to this singular focus? Is it too big a list?
Yeah. So Troy, the owner of emailmarketing.com, when I first met him, he kind of broke a lot of people's brains when he started really getting popular in the space. And that was sending a lot of emails throughout the week. So if you have a lot of things to talk about, that doesn't mean you can't talk about them, but you have to put a lot of emails out there. So for example, if you have a singular focus in an email, that's great. But the next day you can talk about something different. All that engagement is good engagement. So making the pick, knowing what you're talking about that day, making the subject line often connected in some way, shape, or form to the actual message itself is going to help you. That doesn't mean, have one thing right after the other in one email. Because you could say, oh, I have a singular focus in each section of the email. That's not really the same thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's more of the quality of the email and not the quantity of how many emails there are.
A little bit of both. That's why I kind of brought up Troy and him kind of breaking everyone's brain with sending, even daily emails.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, that's spamming people. And not in if you have a singular focus and each email that you send is purpose driven, right? Maybe we're talking about the podcast today. The next day we're talking about something different. It's basically quality and quantity.
Right. Interesting.
So how does that get me out of this email apocalypse danger? Once Google and Hotmail have slapped Farmer Hugh on the wrists, is there any hope is there a get out of jail free card? How
There is a get out of jail free card.
How does that happen?
So let's just talk about like a little bit how the email apocalypse happened. Basically what happened is Gmail, Yahoo, those are like the big servers. That's where like even Yahoo's, like they own like all of like Verizon Media, I think. So that's like you're at AOL, like at MSN, all these different types of like email inboxes people can start.
Right.
Email, a bunch of other ones. What they did, and this is a little bit of like behind the curtain stuff, they sent out a bunch of bots and they had a bunch of bots sign up to people's lists. And so if you were just emailing normally, these bots just got onto your list. You didn't even notice that they were different. They looked like a normal person's email. And what they basically did was report what people were doing, where they were sending their emails from. So for example, if you're, Hugh at Maple Lawn Farms and you're sending from Constant Contact or MailChimp or one of the ones, they knew where you were sending it from. Other people that are also using that service, where they're sending, like that they're also sending from there. And they were basically compiling all this data. And then they were also seeing how their subscribers, all the people that have those inboxes, at Gmail, at Yahoo, how they were engaging with those emails. And basically what they did is if people weren't opening their emails, they started flagging domains and they started flagging the different going a little deep here, but IP addresses, basically the neighborhood that you were using to send mail from. So if you have a house, you're in a neighborhood. If a bunch of people in your neighborhood were a bunch of spammers, they were getting caught now.
Right.
And so if you're finding yourself in like spam and all that, the best way is going back to using like what we were just talking about, where it's like, okay, I want to send singular focus emails. I want to be engaging. Well, if you were doing that and you were getting people to open your emails and you're getting people to click, you're kind of pulling yourself out of the pack and you're not getting lumped into one of those things. And there's a bigger conversation there about, even picking the right neighborhood. But if you're doing all the right things, you're definitely setting yourself apart from the others and you're improving domain reputation. Basically, you're improving the value of your house in the neighborhood that you're in.
So if there are a bunch of spammers on Constant Contact and I'm in Constant Contact, I could essentially be sending from the same IP address because we're all using a shared service. And then I could almost accidentally get
dinged,
spam labeled.
Yeah. I mean, this was actually like a bigger story here. Is there was a service out there. I'm just not going to say their name just because they're $1 billion company.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, they were kind of putting a blind eye to a lot of people that were doing some spamming type stuff. People who were resubscribing, people who unsubscribed from their list. They were sending like very weird products, just silly supplements, stuff that was, just not good stuff. And people that, just didn't really care about their subscribers. And Yahoo, using those bot tools that I was telling you where they sent them out and put them on lists, they found out that a lot of people were doing this over on that service, that IP address. Basically, people from that neighborhood were doing naughty things with their email subscribers. Well, one day, every business that was on that service, not lumped into the people on that service that were doing bad stuff. Like, I'm a good person, I'm sending good stuff about my business and I have a good product that people love. Well, one day, half their list just wasn't getting their emails. And it was like a huge problem.
Gotcha. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So how do we stay out of this, as rookie farmers out here trying to be marketer people? How do we stay out of trouble? And how do we know which neighborhood to be in when really I don't have time to run my own email server and get a static IP and do all right? I mean, I'm not getting into that business, right? So if I got to use a shared service, how do I know if we're in good shape?
Well, shameless plug here. We're developing a shared service that is only going to have good people on it. It's called inboxpro.io, where it's a neighborhood. Think of it like the Shangri-La of email marketing, so that, everybody you're sharing the service with is great. But outside of that, how do I know? You basically want to pick services that aren't the cheapest around. And why? Like, why do I have to spend money on a service necessarily that is essentially the same thing as like maybe even a free MailChimp account? Well, what's free is going to be used by malicious people, right? So if you're picking cheap services, you're using services that can just be easily abused by anybody who can gather thousands of, I'm sure everyone's gotten that weird email from somebody you don't know how they got it and how all of a sudden you're getting sold something you've never looked into before. They're able to just go on those services and start blasting out a ton of emails. Whereas you have to kind of be a little bit more particular. You have to pick a place that those types of people aren't going to spend, a decent amount of money to be on a service that's quality.
We have to upgrade our email service provider. But then you had talked about opting people out. And I have to say, doesn't biggest list win, right? Isn't that what they always used to say in direct marketing?
They used to say that.
Win. Man, I don't want to I don't want to delete Sharon. I mean, she came to the farm 10 years ago. Like, she probably wants to come back, right? Like, I have a big list, and I was talking at a convention to somebody, and their list honestly was a lot smaller than mine. And so I felt very fulfilled as a person. So why? What do you mean by opting people out? Because it seems counterintuitive.
Well, it's just strategy, right? So just having a big email list doesn't necessarily mean you're going to make a ton of money. So for example, you could have 100,000 people on an email list, but if the quality of the emails are bad, and meaning, what you're putting into them, the time that you're putting into them, if they're not effective in terms of getting someone's interest and making them want to click, you're not going to make money. However, you can have a small list. You can have 1,000 people on your list. But if you send quality emails and you get quality engagement, people buying, you can get way more buyers out of a list that's only like 2,000 or 3,000 people versus a list that's 100,000 if you're not sending any quality.
But what's the process of doing? How do I know? How do I know what the process is to be getting people out? And you can even, use me as an example, because when I came in, you really hurt my feelings and told me I couldn't email to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I felt really bad about myself on the inside.
Well, I'll address part of the initial question, which was about unsubscribes. People can be afraid of unsubscribes, especially when they start emailing more regularly. People start opting out. It's the same way you feel when, you're at, I don't know, you go to some store and they ask for your phone number at the cash register to get, maybe 15% off, or they just ask and you just not thinking, just give it to them right away. And next thing you know, you're on a text message thing where they're sending you deals constantly and you opt out. You don't want to buy from them, or you don't want that. That's going to happen, especially when you're doing any sort of marketing. It's just unsubscribes are the more visible sign of somebody saying, I just don't want to be sold to. That doesn't mean they're not going to come back later, but that's the visual one. So them actually leaving is a good thing when it comes to this term email deliverability, email apocalypse, because those people aren't going to mark you as spam. Those people aren't going to hurt you. Now the how, okay, like what am I going to say so I don't get unnecessary unsubscribes, or I actually get people that are going to buy from my emails? Do you care what the message is inside of it? If you're just saying, hey, 25% off, come get it, there's not a lot of substance to that type of email. However, if it's like, hey, I'm reaching out because I'm, giving 30 minutes of my time to everybody who wants a super mega slide, or, we're writing a story about like the new design for a corn maze, attraction or something along those lines. And you kind of go into a little bit of the details of like what went into it, why we decided this one, what's all the stuff going on around this theme this year. There's substance to that email. And somebody reading it who maybe is a past customer, or they came across your site and your business on the internet and they're interested in coming out there. The emails have to be enticing. If you care about if you would read that email, meaning, hey, when I wrote it to go out to thousands of subscribers or millions, maybe, if it actually has substance in the email, then you're usually starting off with a pretty good.
So if you won't read it, then they probably won't read it. Interesting.
That's a pretty good starting point. That does bring up one thing though that I feel like we do need to address is email marketing has its purpose. Now, if you think you're spamming people, odds are you're either not going to send emails at all, or you're going to say, I'm going to spam people today. I'm going to write a super spammy message. Well, you're going to get unsubscribes if you have that mindset. But if you go into it with a genuine, hey, I really want these people to read this. I'm going to actually like tell them about something. then you're usually starting off with a leading hand. That's the common thread here is when you're sitting down and you're going to put together an email, what type of value, even if that is buying something from me, what kind of leading value can I give them in this email when I'm typing it, that when they open it, it's going to be met with some sort of like, oh, I'm glad I read this, or interesting, not that seems sleazy.
That's right. We must all become storytellers and tell our story. Now, we did have the idea on one of the other episodes that your email should have part of the story, and then you have to click to get the rest of it. So is this a tactic? How might one deploy that? Let's say for a lavender festival, it just hypothetically, if someone happened to have a lavender festival that they were desperate to market, what would they do in such a manner to activate that? Tell me the rest of the story.
So in my 10 years of email marketing, copywriting, studying it all, the thing I have to remind myself, even after this amount of time, is don't bury the lead. Don't bury the main point of the email. So even if you don't tell the full outline of something, for example, if you're selling tickets to a lavender festival and there's interesting things that are kind of going on at that event, you don't have to necessarily explain everything to the T, write 1,000-word email that goes, this is what you're going to get at this thing. And then we're also selling, something else.
Maybe lavender lemonades.
Lavender lemonade.
Just an idea.
You can kind of go into it, but what I mean by don't bury the lead is lead with, here's all of the amazing things. Like we have a lavender festival. It's going live. You tell them when, right? You got to give the important information so that they want to click, meaning there's some sort of time sensitive reason to click. But you want to give just enough information to where it's interesting, but there's not a ton of payoff. The payoff comes from the click. So when you're thinking about putting together an email, the payoff from the click is whatever's in that email goes, I wonder what that actually is, or what that would look like. Click. And now they're on your landing page or a section of your website that you wanted them to go to.
Okay. Just for a randomly, specifically hypothetical
situation.
But wait, Dom, I can get around this. I'm thinking of how I can trick these people who think they have their little bots and whatever. So I'm going to send once from MailChimp, and then 4 days later, I'll send from Square. And then 9 days later, I'll send from Shopify. And then the other day, I'll send from wherever. And they'll never know what's coming because I've outsmarted them.
Well, there's a couple ways to look at that, but you're not really outsmarting anything. I'll still go back to, if you're going to send from multiple different things, maybe for multiple different reasons, is it, you have to, there's a fine line between doing something maliciously. Like, are you trying to get around something? Are you trying
Yes, I want a better open rate. Of course I am. I'm literally trying to win.
Well, if that's the case, then there's really no point. If you're I'll be a little facetious here. If your whole point in emailing is just to get as many people just to like click and buy something, you're not going to be sending emails for too long. Or the service providers that we were talking about, Gmail, Yahoo, they're going to put you in spam and you're not going to be successful for too long. So it doesn't matter where you take your domain, what neighborhood you try and go to, so to speak. You're going to try and send something, it's not going to get delivered.
I'll change my email address.
Right.
My sending email address. I'll change that and it'll fix everything, won't it, Tom?
It could for 1 or 2 emails. And then it's going to go right back to the same thing.
I really thought I had him. God dang it. He's too smart.
But that just goes back to just leading with a giving hand and getting the click that's because they're interested in what you're talking about, not necessarily, hey, we always have a discount going on. Hey, we always have something for sale. You can sell in every email. I think that's another thing that people forget. You can sell in every email. It's just how you talk about it, how you're talking about your product, how you're talking about what they're going to get out of the product. Remember, we're being sold to all the time. All your customers, they're watching TV shows. It doesn't matter if you're on Prime or regular television. There's commercial breaks. You're getting sold to every 15 to 20 minutes. And that's it if you're lucky. If you're perusing around on the internet watching YouTube videos, that thing might come up every 5 minutes. You're getting hit with another set of 3 ads. So at the same time, you kind of have to care about the person's attention and know that their attention span could also be kind of small. So as long as you're leading with a giving hand, you're writing something that makes sense, and it's offering something of actual value, even if it is selling. It doesn't really matter, where you're sending from, so to speak. It's just as long as it's quality, and it doesn't matter how many times you're sending either. I'm going to keep saying that.
That's right. But how do I know that I suck? How do I know that I have been a naughty boy? Is there like some way or tool or fashionable icon that I can click on that will let me know you got a real problem?
So a few things that you can use just to find out if to use your words, you suck. So Google will tell you, there's Google Postmaster tools. You just type it into go to Google and type in Google Postmaster tools, and you'll get prompted with a set of things to do. And it'll tell you what your domain reputation is, everywhere from bad, low, medium, and high. Goal being anywhere from medium to high. But another tool is a tool called MailGenius. MailGenius allows you to basically send one of your marketing emails to a test email, and it'll tell you what's actually wrong with the email. Everything from the copy that's in it, if there's anything that's technically not set up right. And so that's mailgenius.com. And there's a lot of other amazing tools out there, but I think that would be like the easiest thing to start with, because that will lead you in a bunch of different directions.
Yeah. So again, we have a lot of farms and small businesses, which is sometimes both of the same, and by small, that's probably, 10 million or less, right? We got people all over the board for sure, but none of them have an enormous amount of time, right? Mm. So let's say they get on there and they go, smithsuperartisanalfarm.com is in the crap. What? That's a bad feeling, because you have the feeling I had, which is, I got to get an email out this week. We need people to show up this weekend, right? We got to get them into the dairy store, right? And now I got a bad reputation, which, was kind of me in high school. But let's be honest, it was middle school. Oh, in elementary school, I was the smartest, nicest kid, but it was all downhill from there. I rolled through fourth grade, and then I definitely peaked right around fourth.
Peaked in fourth grade. That's new. That's new.
That's just what it is. It's been a long downhill slide from there. What do we do if I'm scared now? I look at this, and now Dom's told me I'm bad. Google's told me I'm a bad boy. And MailGenius said naughty email. What is something that I could do at least to get started? Like what are some initial attempts other than like write these emails better? Let's assume I figured that part out. But what the heck do I do next?
It all starts with the quality of the email, obviously. You just mentioned that, but what else can you do? Starting off with sending possibly to less people. Why is that? We kind of talked about that. How does a list that's smaller sometimes make more money?
Well, and sometimes though, aren't they called segments? Depending on there are like lists I think they're called lists in Constant Contact. I think they're segments in MailChimp. Everything's got a different thing. So name what those things are, and then like talk a little bit about what that means. I guess maybe we'll default to segmentation. Is that a good?
Yeah. So I'll just kind of break down the vocabulary a little bit. So your email list is all of your email list subscribers. Everybody who's given you their email address, whether that be through a form, a pop-up on your home page, you run Facebook ads, and you do like the little lead form things, and they give you their information there. So they all land on your email list. And then there's called segments. Now segments can be maybe different lists in the software that you're using, or segments can just be like maybe different tags that you have applied depending on where they came from or what they purchased. To just give it a little bit more specificity here. A segment is anything that you define as something different than the rest of the subscribers. Meaning, a segment can be people who have opened your emails in the last 2 weeks. That could be a segment. A segment can be someone who's purchased one of your products. A segment can be someone who purchased multiple products. And so there's basically filters or different things that you're putting on the whole list. And you're getting these little smaller lists that have different things that they've done or things that they've purchased or seen or gone to go check out. And that's how you can kind of devise that. Does that make sense?
So let's farmify this, right?
Farmify it.
John, how would you, based on our business here, give me a couple segments from different things people could buy that we could think about segmenting our list?
Well, I would start probably like people who go to the festivals, so like the Sunflower Festival, the Lavender Festival, and then people who come to the corn maze. So
Right.
just the regular season corn maze. Then I'd probably have a
Hardcore
segment.
drinkers.
I was going to say the winery.
The winery.
The
Let's
winery.
go. People who like to have fun is what you were going to label that
Yeah.
segment. Fun people.
People with the with Wine Your Way Out and everything
Right.
get lumped in, all the like the winery event. And then probably finally I'd have a segment for people who buy the attraction. So like the Super Mega Slide, the Hen House Hustle, all of those.
It's like our business to business.
Right.
They would be in different segments. So those would all be different segments by type or thing that they bought. But you were talking about segments for people who have opened recently. Yeah. And I guess as we're talking about, I'm cheating because this is how we tried to start reformatting my list, right? Was to very specifically focus on the people who have been opening. So you want to just kind of just flesh that out for us a little bit if people are thinking, I don't even know what this guy's talking about. But like all of the email programs have this feature, right? To create a filter or a segment. So just fill us out a little bit, unpack us a little bit on it.
So just unpacking, so John was just eloquently putting all the different possible segments that could be on a farming list like that you guys have, or a farm list.
Mm-hmm.
You have people that are buying attractions, you have a bunch of different things. So in some way, shape, or form, that information that they did, so meaning like if I purchased a Super Mega Slide from you guys, I got to know to update those contacts with something special so that when I want to create a segment, I know who did it. It all starts from information, data, right? You got to feed the data back into the list to be able to create a segment. But a common misconception with segments is, well, maybe I should only email one over the other or something along those lines.
Right.
For example, if you have a bunch of different events, you have the Lavender Festival, you have pumpkin picking, you have the Sunflower Festival, you pick days of the week, all these different things. Should I only send, and this is a question to you guys, should you only send people who have picked peaches, just peach stuff? Or would you want, hey, maybe you're interested in Sunflower Festival stuff? I'm guessing you would say, yeah, I want to send them that stuff too.
So here's an interesting thing and this was from Channing, I think, as well. She would say, at the beginning of the season, you email some very specific thing to the people you know have picked peaches before, and you say, thank you for being some of our peach picking customers, right? You go really specific to the people who you guaranteed know because you have their transaction in Square that they bought in peach season, and make them feel really special. And then you go to the next of all pickers, and then you go to the next of everybody who's ever attended an event as you're working towards peach season, right? Something like that. How do you feel about that? Or is she completely wrong and dumb?
Well, she's not completely wrong and dumb. That would be incorrect.
Just one of them.
That's not, no. But here's what I'll say. Troy, the owner of emailmarketing.com, like I said, he kind of broke everybody's brains with sending daily emails, sending a lot of emails, but like quality at the same time. When it comes to segmenting and focusing on certain groups at first, and then maybe like how Channing is saying, like build it up, and then you start growing that audience, more segments, start getting the same messaging. It's just a different way of doing it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It just means there's a different purpose for those emails at the beginning. Right? Maybe you're trying to get those people who purchased, who are your peach pickers. Maybe you're trying to get them their tickets first. You're trying to see what how many tickets you're going to sell at the beginning of the season or before the season even happens, maybe.
Right.
But in my world, where you're trying to, have the biggest possible list, and you're trying to make the most amount of money with each and every send.
Go on. You're saying words I love to hear.
You have to kind of have a focus. And the focus for emailmarketing.com in particular is we want people to see the stuff that we're offering. And if you're sometimes spending a little bit more time focusing on small segments, you're not really giving yourself the opportunity of somebody else maybe purchasing a ticket right away. You're almost delaying the purchase. There's this thing called unintended friction. And that would sometimes be a symptom of like maybe adding a little bit of extra strategy to something, maybe when it's not needed. For example, sometimes people just need to get the message that, hey, this is for sale now. And they might just go and click. But if there's potentially thousands you're not sending that email to right now, because hey, we're focusing on a particular segment, maybe that's thousands of dollars you didn't make with that email. So
say more about unintended friction. That's interesting. And by that you mean in the buying process or in the marketing process, or how are some other examples that you've seen of small businesses creating unintended friction?
just not thinking simplicity first. So unintended friction is just anything that is disrupting the customer or a lead from buying. For example, I'm not trying to purposely say Channing is wrong. She has a lot of success behind what she's doing. She has a purpose behind that strategy. But for the sake of someone who is maybe a business like Maple Lawn Farms, and they're selling, a bunch of different products, and they want people to come out to the farm and, pick pumpkins, pick
And we're
apples.
desperate.
Say again?
And we're desperate. Yes, go ahead.
You're desperate. Let's just say you want people to come out at all times. You want people to come out at the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, and when the season's wrapping up. If you're coming up with strategies that just exclude people for the sake of excluding them, that'd be unintended friction. Why exclude somebody from an email that they could easily just get and possibly click and buy?
I think part of it was to go back, though, and in all fairness to Channing, is to warm that list back up, right? You start with the group that is most likely to open, right? I think that was part of the strategy, right? You go to the next group that's right, and then my open rate is boosting my overall reputation, which I think is how you pronounce that. Is that John was homeschooled, so I always look to him for pronunciation. But
yeah, I mean, last week you spelled, what was it? Judgment with a G. So
I did spell judgment with a G. That was last week. Like I say, fourth grade, about the tops. So I think that was part of that strategy. But I see what you mean. Are we burying the lead, right? When we could just give the lead to everybody. There's not going to be many peaches this year. So when I say go, you better get here or you ain't getting no peaches, which could be the subject line. You ain't getting no peaches.
Well, remember, product is always the biggest payoff. And so if you want people to buy something, you don't want to hide it from them. Now, when it comes to warming up, though, I think she has a really great point. You want people to start opening. And so as you start building it up, you're starting to get a little bit more steam behind your emails. I think there's a little bit of a deeper thing there. And that deeper thing really is if you're always sending quality emails, it doesn't necessarily stop you from sending emails. And that's something to remember. If you're always sending something, even if you're out of season and you're just talking about something that's going on at the farm, you're sharing value, you're leading with a giving hand, even though you may not be selling something, those people are staying engaged. So when it comes time to sell something, you can sell something.
Right. So I guess another problem that I completely need you to solve, but now for free because you're on the podcast, with my hyper-specific hypothetical example. Let's just say you had let's call it a multi-crop farm with many seasons and festivals happening along the way. So something like lavender, sunflower, apples, peaches, blueberries, maybe something like that. I don't think we have talked enough about getting that list to grow. We've talked about churning people off the other side. You're not answering my emails. Eventually, I don't send them to you because I don't want to screw up my reputation. So beat it, right? I mean, you opt yourself out or I just don't send to you anymore. We talked all about that. But Dom, you have not told us how to get more people on this list other than, on our website. Sign up for our farm newsletter so I can send you some things that you probably don't want. Help me grow this list, Dom, if that's your specialty.
So there's a couple different things, but the easiest thing for everyone to know is, so there's a bunch of different ways. There's Facebook ads, there's Google ads, there's different things that you can, pay to get your information in front of people that are searching around on different, search engine tools, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, right? But what it really comes down to is your offer. Are you always offering something? And that usually kind of breaks people's brains when I say that. And when, all the different people part of emailmarketing.com talking to different people, they get nervous about, oh my gosh, why am I always selling something? Because if you're not selling something, no one's interested. So for example, if you're doing like Facebook ads and you're talking about, 10% off, you pick peaches. Well, now you have a reason to put that information out there, and you have another reason for them to show up and see something on the website and sign up for that. Just having a newsletter that's available to sign up for is not interesting. Selling something is interesting.
Mm. And for Facebook ads and Google ads in particular, if you were a farm, what are the kinds of offers that are actually going to do it? Because I think 10% off peaches, and I still got to drive my family there, and it's July and it's hot and blah blah blah. I could do 100 things this weekend. 80 of them are air conditioned. Right. I guess what have you seen work for our businesses, local businesses, other farms, that kind of thing, that are like real offers? And how does the structure of it work? Okay, I run this Facebook ad, and am I running the Facebook ad that says charcuterie box with your case of wine? Or give me some real offers. And then what is the actual process? Like, are we doing a lead ad, which in Facebook sense means they have to put in their name and their email address? Like, how do I get the name from the people so that I can spam them? Send them very valuable emails a lot of the week.
So I'll talk about the offer piece first. So at the end of the day, I've seen, before coming on here, I saw there was a pricing podcast. There's a lot of different things that you can do, I'm sure, to make whatever you're offering enticing as far as money. But when it comes to actually people coming out to your place, it really is then, it all comes down to is what is the experience like? And are you also selling that as part of the offer? What else can they get there? What else when they show up to the farm are they going to experience? Are they going to experience, attractions that are also available? Are they also going to have an opportunity maybe to do like some sort of petting zoo or like a feeding zoo where they can kind of feed animals for the kids? There's a lot of things that you have to think about that isn't just the offer itself. It's the entire experience around that. And there's obviously, I'm sure there's seasonalities to everything, depending on what region you are in on the globe, but let's just use the United States. In the South, their seasons are a little longer. So they have more of a longer opportunity to do certain things. Maybe people in the North, they also have different time gaps of when, they can sell something or bring people onto the farm for certain things. So, but there's different things that they can offer because of that, whether that be what you're putting onto the farm to entice people to come check you out, what other sort of experiences that they can go through. So there's adding to the offer, but there's also adding too much to the offer too. You have to be sort of cognizant not to weigh the offer down with so many bonuses and so many different things that they can come to experience, because then it starts to become, again, an unintended friction, right? I don't necessarily, if I'm trying to get people to come out and pick peaches, I don't necessarily need to tell them about the like blueberry jam that's also for sale in the marketplace.
Right.
Or the possible wine I have for sale. Not saying you can't talk about it at some point, but you're really just trying to get people onto your email list for a very specific thing at that time. Once they're on your email list, there's no holds barred. You can talk about anything at any time, right? Once you have that person's email address, that's okay. That's the main thing here. The main thing is like, okay, if I'm running, say, a Facebook ad, there's a lot of different ads you can run. And you can go talk to ad agencies that will sell you on thousands and thousands of dollars of service fee of writing 10 different ads that you can run at the same time that you can waste tens of thousands of your money doing. Sure. At the end of it, all you really need to care about is, am I getting this person's basic information? First name, email address, phone number. But really all that matters is that email address. Because once you have that email address, you really don't have to pay anymore to reach out to them. And if you care about the messaging that you're putting in your emails, then you have unlimited, until they unsubscribe, unlimited amount of times to market a ton of different things. So going back to the offer, make the offer enticing. Talk about the things that people are going to experience when they come out for that experience. All the different things they have available, but don't fill it in just to come up with an unbelievable offer. A great example of this is I don't have to sell an all-inclusive, vacation by telling someone everything that they're going to get. I can say that there is all you can eat buffet. I don't have to tell them every single thing that they can eat, but I can give them kind of the cliff notes of what they can get there: seafood, steak, different things like that. But I don't need to fill it in. So does that make sense?
Yes. How do we leave a little mystery
Always
along the way? A little
'Cause-
mystery. I guess maybe even in running those online ads, I'm not sure. I would say that a lot of them I was running for conversion on direct response. I ran this ad. Did someone buy something? Right. I mean, that's how a lot of Google ads are set up, is based on did it convert when I
Yes.
ran this ad, as opposed to did I get their name and email when I ran this ad. I don't know that I have focused on just going in and purposefully focusing on just getting the information.
So I guess what I really want to hammer home here is, and this may not directly answer the question here, but when it comes to spending money to grow your list, whether it's with Facebook ads or you're putting your ad out on the radio or something along, like anything you're spending money on to get leads to come out to your place of business, you have to have some sort of way to capture their information. And I'm an email guy. I'm from emailmarketing.com. Of course, I'm going to talk about email marketing. Having someone give you their email address is a direct value for the investment that you're making to get that person in the first place. Because if you don't collect that, think of, so a lot of people optimize for sales, right? They're always optimizing for sales.
Yeah.
And you're spending thousands of dollars to figure out from one click to the next page how to get someone to put their credit card information in, so when that they'll hit the buy button, and they're constantly playing with the page, constantly playing with the words that it's saying, and you're spending thousands of dollars in the process to figure it out. Great. Maybe you figure it out and maybe become a millionaire in the process. Most people don't have that experience. They just don't, but they do get in front of people. So all the real reason that you need to be getting in front of people is just to get their information so you can market to them later, is to get them to come back at a later date. Because odds are most people are window shopping.
Right. So there was a big thing years ago that you got to run contests. Enter our contest. Enter to win. Enter to do this. Enter. Just give me your name and your email. Enter to win. Enter to win. And then there was a big backlash against that. That these are all just useless emails. Nobody's doing any of this kind of stuff. But it sounds to me like you would be a fan of a useless contest, just because it grows my list, and then we just email them until they blow out. Give me the contest.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought that up, because you bring up a really great point. You still need to have a purpose behind grabbing someone's email. It's the same thing with the subject line, having some sort of connection to what's actually the content of the email. If you're just trying to get email addresses and you're being super indirect of what they're actually signing up for, say, for example, a contest to win an iPhone, and really they're signing up for You Pick Peach tickets.
Right.
Those two things don't really connect that well. And a lot of those people are just not going to end up becoming customers. So yeah, it feels great to have a bunch of people signing up for your email list, but are those people really going to buy something? That's sort of the exact opposite of quality and everything else that we've been talking about this whole time. Not landing in spam, sending out emails that get marked as spam. You have to, when you're building your email list, you have to have a clear reason why they're signing up. And it has to directly connect to what you're doing and what you're going to be sending them in the future. Sure, you might not be sending, You Pick Peaches or Lavender Festival or Corn Maze ticket deals all the time, because there's different seasons. But they still know why they signed up. They signed up to hear from a very specific business that does a lot of different things. but I know why I'm here.
So if you deceive someone into getting on your list, that hurts you more than it'll help, because then they're not there for what they signed up for.
Correct. I'm going to give everyone listening, you guys, a 3-letter acronym that will save everything. As long as you think of this 3-letter acronym at all times, whether you're trying to grow your list, write an email, or you're trying to put together an offer that works, it's called ELF. You want to always earn trust. You want to earn the trust of the person. You want to lead them to victory, whether that be their kids are going to have a great time at your place of business, whatever. And you want to fulfill on the promises that you're saying, what you're saying. For example, if you're offering a 10% off discount, make sure that they can actually get a 10% off discount. And then lead to victory. Make sure the things that you're doing when they do show up, actually there's a payoff to making the purchase with you. And then fulfill on it. Make sure that everything that is happening at the place of business is actually happening. Are they enjoying their time? Is everything clean? That's where all the small things matter, right? Are the bathrooms kept well? Is the food fresh? Is it not just been, sitting in heat trays for hours and hours and hours on end? There's a lot of things that you can do to make those 3 things always true. If you're earning their trust, you're leading them to victory with the purchase, and you're fulfilling on the promises that you make, you're never going to go wrong.
That acronym should be easy for you to remember too.
Nice. That's it's because I'm elf sized. That's why John's making that joke.
But it's Santa's little helper.
I am Santa's little helper. Oh my gosh. And luckily, those were 3 of the letters from the alphabet. I know. That also is very handy. Oh my gosh. Well, we have taken a bunch of your time. I want to, how should we wrap this up? Like, what is the clear message that you want our small business listeners, my farm listeners, what do they need to take away from this about their email marketing? Because I can tell you 99.9% of them are doing it in some fashion, in some sort of way. Like, what are the DOM 3-letter quick wins? Is it DOM? Is that directly email people on the minute? I was just trying to think of what DOM came from.
Make connection.
Make connections. That's right. Very good. Very good. What's the 3 quick wins that they should go home and to get them a little better on email?
So if we're just going to make it something simple, I'm going to go back to that ELF thing. But what I'll wrap it in is this. If you are going to do email marketing, you're going to do it in a way where the people you're sending emails to trust that you're not doing something maliciously. So you're leading with a giving hand. You're leading them to victory, meaning your offer is something that they're genuinely going to enjoy. And then fulfilling on your promises is making sure you're doing all the work in the background to make sure that what you're saying in those emails, what you're writing to them, spending the time to write that thing to send out to your list, make sure that when they show up, all the things actually happen and all the experience around that is perfect. If you do those 3 things, especially with email marketing, right? And if it's just as simple as just sending emails to your email list, which is step 1. If you do those 3 things, you're going to be successful.
All right. What do you think about Dom here, John? Give him a 2 stars, 1 star for his performance today. How useful has Dom been? What are the key takeaways?
Key takeaways, I definitely do like the ELF because it simplifies everything that we talked about in a Hugh-sized acronym.
It's short. That's why we like it. It's fun size. Just like me. Jeez. God, what? Literally on my payroll treats me like this. This is terrible.
Hey, you do it to me, so
that part's true.
But also just having the competence to know that it's not the just massive list is what gets you your sales. It's having the specific quality emails sent to your quality customers or guests or whoever is on the receiving end to really pin down what you're trying to achieve. I think that was the big one for me.
I think so for me too. It's the focus, the know, why am I sending this email?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What's the one thing, not the giant list, but what's the one thing I'm talking about? And what's the one thing I want you to do? Whether it's click or buy or laugh we do a couple of laugh emails, or do we want you to reply, right? And ask people for information. I think, get into that newsletter mindset and it's all one way. It's all flowing out. And really, we're supposed to be listening to our guests, our customers more often. Very specifically asking for that reply, I think helps in a lot of ways, but apparently it helps with your email reputation. That's what I just heard.
And I think the final takeaway, don't mess with Google.
Don't mess with Google, because they can smack you across the face with the back of their hand. And they might. And they just might. That's true. Dom, this has been an absolute pleasure. It is so nerdy to, at least, I think for me and John, one of the most wonderful things we've learned is at least our lives don't revolve around email marketing. I think that's great, because now that we've met you, your entire life is based off email marketing.
Yeah. It's a great thing, though, at the same time.
No, I think it's really good that someone's out there to help people like me who got myself into trouble thinking my names from 10 years ago were any good. And boy, they sure weren't. So I appreciate your help and leadership leading us out of that along the way. Any particular way people can get in touch with you if they're interested in emailmarketing.com, or what way should they reach out?
Well, you can go to emailmarketing.com and there's, a wealth of stuff that you can do over there. I think the biggest thing, though, is inboxpro.io. If you're thinking about a place where you want to be that's safe, that you want to send emails from, and the other people you're sharing this neighborhood with, so to speak, who are also using that same service to send emails, is also the one thing in mind is they're also going to be safe senders as well as you. Inboxpro.io/Hugh. And if you go to that,
whoa, we have a code. Not only the first day with our sign, but this is the first podcast code /Hugh. Oh man, this is great. This is great. Shoot, that's good. We'll send you an invoice. It'll be man. What a pleasure, Dom. Thanks so much. We really appreciate kind of breaking this down and making some things doable. That hey, for their next strawberry season's coming up. Some people are already in it, so hopefully they can this week's email can be just a little bit better. So thanks a bunch.
Yep.
Talk to you soon, buddy.
This has been Positive Business Action, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Positive Business Action. If this episode gave you a useful idea, take a second to follow the show, leave a quick rating, or share it with someone who could use it too. That's what helps this show reach more people who are building something meaningful. You can find links to full episodes, resources, and ways to connect with us in the show notes. Until next time, keep moving forward, keep improving, and keep taking positive business actions.